Okay, imagine for a second that everything you understand, science, morals, even how society works, it all hinges on just one single idea, a kind of sovereign concept.
Mm,
And if that one idea gets twisted, maybe we just give up on it, then the whole structure of our thinking could just crumble.
that's a powerful way to put it.
Well, that concept, as Mortimer Adler breaks it down in his huge work, the Syntopicon, is truth. So today we're doing a deep dive into arguably the most critical idea in 25 centuries of Western thought.
Right. And our mission here is, well, to give you the ultimate shortcut. We want to quickly unpack the structure of truth, not just its definition, but how this single great idea has been debated, twisted, refined across millennia.
So we're synthesizing Adler's decades of work.
Exactly. So you can walk away with a real grip on the core arguments that honestly still shape our world today. And just quickly, before we dive deeper, it's worth mentioning, you are experiencing a unique two-host AI conversation powered by Google's NotebookLM. It helps us get deeper, more dynamic analysis of the book.
Good point. Now, Adler's Syntopicon covers 102 great ideas. It's massive. But it says a lot that he puts truth right near the start of the second volume. It feels foundational.
It absolutely is. It wasn't just another topic for him. Think about the sheer number of thinkers he had to pull from ancient Greeks right up to modern times. It shows this isn't just some abstract philosophical game.
It's more like the basic operating system for thinking itself.
Precisely.
Okay, let's get into that idea of sovereignty. You called truth the supreme regulator. Why sovereign specifically? Does it only regulate, say, academic thought, or does it also regulate our everyday survival, even when maybe convenient lies seem more practical?
Ah, that's hitting the core tension, isn't it? Adler's argument is that truth is the ultimate benchmark, the standard for evaluating everything, what's real, what's certain, what's objective.
So it regulates intellectual judgment, first and foremost.
Yes, because if your judgment isn't based on what's true, well, it's not really judgment, is it? It's closer to delusion. And what's really fascinating is the hierarchy Adler lays out. Truth, beauty, goodness. Most people might see them as, I don't know, equal pillars.
Yeah, like three separate values.
But Adler argues, no, beauty is a special kind of goodness. And goodness itself, that's a specific type, a manifestation of truth. Truth is the foundation.
Hold on, so before I can even say a policy is good, I have to first agree that the facts underneath it, the truth of the situation, are actually real and knowable.
Exactly that. Truth comes first. It's the prerequisite. You need to establish what is before you can judge what ought to be, that's goodness, or what pleases us, beauty.
So it's the bedrock.
It's the bedrock. It provides the solid ground needed to even start talking about reality.
Okay, that clarifies its unique role. It's something philosophers argue about, but it's also the tool they use for all other arguments.
Yeah.
It helps us sort out solid knowledge from just, well, shaky guesses.
And crucially, it separates objective reality from subjective feeling. Without that, everything becomes, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Right. Chaos.
Now, to really grasp why things feel so messy today, we need to look back. Back to the ancient Greeks. They basically set the agenda for the next 2,000 years.
They ask the big questions first.
They did. And they sketched out the first frameworks. Things like correspondence theory, the idea that truth matches reality, and coherence theory, the idea that truth is about logical consistency. Think about Plato's cave, that famous allegory. For him, truth was objective, unchanging, out there, like the sun outside the cave, not just something in our heads.
So the ancients saw truth as both metaphysical about reality itself and epistemological about how we know things.
Exactly. They set up truth as this fixed external thing, and also the rules we need to follow to grasp it.
Then comes the medieval period, a huge shift, right? Christian, Islamic, Jewish thinkers trying to mesh classical ideas with religious faith.
A massive synthesis, yeah. This is where the idea of absolute certainty really takes center stage. They had to figure out how revealed truth from Scripture fit with truths you could figure out just by looking at the world, using reason, like Aristotle did.
So thinkers like Aquinas were bridging that gap.
Right. They were wrestling with, can we know things absolutely? Is reason enough, or do we need faith for the highest truths? This whole debate about reason versus revelation really shaped how the West thought about the limits of human knowledge.
And then, another revolution. Modern philosophy. Descartes. It feels like they flipped the script entirely.
They really did. If the ancients and medievals basically said, look out there for truth, The moderns, starting with Descartes, said, hold on, look inside. Your own mind is the only thing you can be truly sure of.
Starting with doubt, I think, therefore I am.
Exactly. That turn inward changed everything. Philosophers started leaning more towards skepticism, towards experience empiricism. They stressed subjectivity, the limits of what we can really know just through our senses.
Kant, for example.
Yeah. Kant's huge here. He argued we never directly experience the world as it is, the noumena. We only experience it as filtered and structured by our own minds, the phenomena.
So that creates this fundamental tension we still live with.
Absolutely. The clash between objectivism truth is out there, independent of us, and subjectivism truth is shaped, maybe even created by our minds or cultures.
Okay, so that history leads us to these big ongoing philosophical battles. Adler shows they kind of boil down to three core clashes, right? And these aren't just academic, they play out everywhere.
That's right. Three fundamental disagreements. First, what is truth fundamentally? Is it correspondence or coherence?
Correspondence sounds intuitive, like you said, Aristotle Aquinas. A statement is true if it matches reality. The sky is blue if, well, the sky is actually blue.
It's the mirror idea. Truth reflects reality. Simple enough, seems like.
But the coherence people disagree.
They find correspondence too simple, or maybe impossible to verify. How do you really check if your thought perfectly mirrors reality? They say truth emerges from logical consistency. Does this belief fit coherently with all my other beliefs in a larger system?
So if a whole system of beliefs hangs together logically, it's considered true within that system.
That's the idea. But it leads to tricky questions, doesn't it?
Like what?
Well, could you have a perfectly consistent, logically sound system that's completely wrong, utterly detached from reality, like an elaborate conspiracy theory?
Correspondence would say no, that's false because it doesn't match the facts.
But coherence might say, maybe. If the internal logic is flawless, Adler really forces us to grapple with that.
Okay, the second big tension, absolute versus relative truth. This feels very relevant to this.
Extremely. Is truth universal, unchanging, absolute, like mathematical truths maybe, or fundamental physical laws? Gravity works the same everywhere.
Versus relative truth, like beauty's in the eye of the beholder, or maybe moral rules depend on the culture.
Exactly. Relativism argues truth depends on context, cultural, historical, individual. This fight impacts everything. Are there objective moral truths? Are scientific laws truly universal or just our current best models within our framework?
And the third clash, truth and certainty. Does truth have to be absolutely certain, rock solid, like 2 + 2 = 4?
Or is probable truth good enough? This is super practical. We can be deductively certain about math, maybe logic. But science, medicine, history, we often work with high degrees of probability, not absolute certainty.
A new drug is probably safe and effective based on trials, but we can't be 100% certain about long-term effects for everyone.
Precisely. So do we demand absolute certainty, which might be impossible in many areas, or is high probability sufficient for knowledge, for action, for living our lives? Science largely relies on empirical probability testing, observing, refining, knowing it might change.
So deductive certainty versus empirical probability. That choice shapes how we approach almost everything practical.
It really does. We often have to act on probable truths. And speaking of digging deeper, if you want more analysis like this, ways to think through these complex ideas, check out Mindful Moments. That's our YouTube channel. We offer AI book analysis, summaries, critiques, really good stuff for reflection and promoting rational thought.
Okay, great. So connecting these big ideas, how do they actually affect us? What are the real-world implications?
Let's bring it down to earth. Think about education. Your view of truth directly shapes how you think schools should work.
How so?
Well, if you lean towards absolute correspondence truth, you likely emphasize teaching verifiable facts, critical thinking to uncover those facts, logical reasoning.
Getting the right answer.
Sort of. Whereas if you lean towards relative truth, maybe subjectivism, you might focus more on interpreting texts, understanding different cultural perspectives, valuing subjective experience. What does this mean to you? It's fundamental to what we think the goal of education even is. Adler saw understanding truth as key to liberal education, creating citizens who can think for themselves.
And that spills right over into politics and law, I imagine.
Absolutely. How a legal system works depends massively on its underlying idea of truth. Are we primarily after correspondence truth? Did the defendant actually do it based on objective evidence?
Or is it more about coherence? Does the prosecution present a story that logically fits all the presented evidence, even if some pieces are maybe ambiguous?
Exactly. That difference can literally mean freedom or prison. And in public policy, forget about it. One side argues from the facts, demanding objective standards.
While another might prioritize what works for the community or what gets democratic consensus, maybe emphasizing a good outcome over strict factual correspondence.
Yes. Different ideas of truth lead to vastly different ways of organizing society and making decisions.
And science, obviously.
Science is impossible without some concept of truth, usually leaning heavily on correspondence. The whole method hypothesis, testing against external reality, seeking objective evidence that's built on the philosophical tradition Adler maps out. Our technology, our understanding of the universe, it's rooted in this long, often messy search for truth.
So what makes Adler's contribution in the Syntopicon so special isn't that he gives us his answer.
Right. That's key. He's not pushing one theory. He's like a master curator. He lays out the entire history of the arguments, showing you the strengths and weaknesses of each view.
Showing the great conversation, as he called it.
Exactly. He connects the dots, shows how Plato relates to Kant, how Homer echoes in Freud. He uses quotes from across the entire Western canon to show this ongoing dialogue, this continuous thread of inquiry. He presents the synthesis, but leaves the final judgment to you, the reader.
And that mapping shows how interconnected these great ideas really are. You can't talk about knowledge without talking about truth.
Yeah.
Or goodness, logic, science.
They all weave together. It demonstrates a kind of underlying unity in Western thought. Despite all the surface-level disagreements, it's all part of the same quest, really.
And his ultimate goal was practical, wasn't it? Not just academic.
Definitely. He wanted to equip ordinary citizens to make these powerful philosophical tools accessible so people could participate intelligently in democracy, make reasoned choices in their own lives.
Because being able to tell truth from falsehood, fact from opinion,
Yeah.
that's maybe the most essential skill.
It has to be. For a functioning society, and just for living a thoughtful, coherent life. So maybe we can leave you with this question to chew on. If truth is the concept that makes all our thinking, all our inquiry possible, what happens? What's the real cost, personally and socially, when we stop searching for objective truth? When we abandon that effort to tell fact from fiction, maybe because it's hard or inconvenient?
That's definitely something to reflect on. It brings us back to the beginning. Thanks for walking us through that. It really underscores the need to think rationally. And for you listening, really engage with this. Click the link on screen for the in-depth book summary. Don't forget to subscribe, share, maybe purchase the book via the link, and always think rationally. Subscribe and nourish your mind on the go.